This is the history of a woman deported to a hard labor gulag. Deportations from Lithuania and from other countries in Eastern Europe were of two types. One type was to hard labor gulags where the death rates were very, very high. The other deportations, were actually larger in number, were to less restricted areas. These were to do lumber, industry, agriculture, mining, and fishing. In the hard labor gulags, these were under barbed wire with guard towers, with the army, the police, the military presence guarding everything. The death rates were very high. We have on display here, as part of the Hope and Spirit exhibit and program, extremely rare material from a gulag, which was brought to the United States by Elena Juciute. This kind of material is basically non-existent anywhere in the world. We are very thankful to the Lithuanian Research and Studies Center, where this material is housed and was on display prior to it being loaned to us. And we're particularly thankful for Dr. Augustinas Idzelis, the president of the Institute, for arranging this loan for this exhibit. The other person I do need to specifically thank is Ms. Irena Balzekas. She translated all of the information from Lithuanian into English, and she actually made the entire arrangements and put up the 3 panels where this material is currently displayed. She is a student at McGill University in Montreal. Elena Juciute was a mathematics teacher in Lithuania in the city of Pilviškė. Now, Pilviškė is right nearby where the Plioplis Kaimas is. This is where my forefathers are from. And on every Sunday, the Plioplis family and relatives will go to the Pilviškė city church for Sunday services. After the Soviet overtake of Lithuania and the atrocities that were being committed by the Red Army and the Soviet NKVD brigades became well known, she was very appalled by what she saw. She wanted to help out the freedom fighters, she wanted to help out the resistance movement, the partisans. So she volunteered to help out, but she refused to have anything to do with guns, ammunition, weapons. She would only help out with paperwork. And she did that for a few years until she was caught. And so now this was a major affront to the system, and that's how she was sentenced to the hard labor camps. Her first deportation took place to the central parts of Siberia, and in these images here we see her working, shoveling, and she's working to repair the Trans-Siberian Railroad. That was most of the work that she did. In these photographs you see that her head is covered. It's covered actually with this item here. It's netting to keep mosquitoes and bugs off. And on top of that, she also devised her own additional netting from branches of trees to kind of keep the larger bugs away. As she's working in the gulag, she always has to have 2 of her prison numbers on her. One number is on her front right knee, and the other number is on the middle of her back. So to identify her, she had to wear that all the time. Being in a gulag was an extremely restricted area. How she was able to get photographs taken of her is beyond understanding. We have something very interesting here. Here is a photograph of a sign written in Russian, which means restricted zone. That means the prisoners were not allowed to walk past it. You see a kind of a line of barbed wire down towards the ground here. She had a photograph of this sign done, and she took the sign itself. And we have the original sign here too, saying restricted zone. And she also has brought back some photographs of herself and the places where she stayed. She was there for several years, and it was after the death of Stalin that her case was reviewed and she was released. In 1965, relatives of hers living in the United States convinced the Soviet authorities to release her, and she then spent the rest of her life in the United States. This is a photograph of her done in 1955 upon her return to Lithuania, and this is with her resting at work. in Siberia. This is the actual number that she had to wear on her front knee and on her back to identify her. These were Cyrillic letters in Russian that she had to wear in the Gulag in Siberia. Upon her return to Lithuania, while her case was being reviewed, she was in a high security prison camp there, and these were her prison numbers that she had to wear. In Siberia, she did do handicrafts herself, and this is one of the pieces that she herself created. Upon arriving in the United States, she had time to collect her reminiscences and published a book, which was then translated, Footprints in the Death Zone, written by her. Now this here is a map of parts of where she was deported to, which she drew herself, and with the city and location. Lake Baikal is here. Lithuania will be far, far away, and some of the places where she worked. Now a friend of mine pointed out a point of humor that she put in here. She put it here, the farthest, most distant location, Sovietskaya Havana. There is no city there called Havana. Havana is in Cuba. And in those days, it was still a city of much tourism, much pleasure, and this was just a joke that sort of a city that she created out of her own humor. Elena Juciute brought back with her some other artifacts of her life in Siberia, in the Gulag. We have a series of pieces created from straw, colored straw that were cut up and assembled and glued down on thin pieces of paper. Very beautiful Lithuanian motifs. They were handmade. These were not made by her, but they were given to her, and she took them with her from Siberia. Most of the people of Lithuania are religious, Catholic. The new Soviet system was not. People would make a rosary. We have 2 rosaries on display here. Both of them were made from fragments of bread that had been chewed, made soft, and then created on a string. So these are fragments of bread producing a rosary. We have a second, smaller rosary here, also made from chewed bread fragments. The birch bark was used to make cards with designs and pictures, and some of these were sent, but these were brought back by Elena Juciute as other people's artwork. This is the materials and instruments that were used to produce the handiworks that the ladies, Elena herself, used in her creations, artistic creations. Besides working on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, Elena Juciute also for several years worked in a mica mine. Mica is a rock substance which can flake into thin, large flakes which are used in the electronics industry for insulation. It's particularly good in areas of high temperature, and the few places in the world where it can be mined and found is in Siberia. It continues to be in use currently. She took several of these sheets of mica, made a small booklet of them, and on the pages inscribed certain things that she wrote. On the first page, she wrote that she was writing this from Camp Collective number 21, and she's doing this on May 22nd of 1951. One entry is of interest. She wrote, "Can it be that brutal Siberia will not let us return home? No. The Lithuanian is patient. Nowhere will he disappear. He will win back his freedom." This is the same concept that the Hope and Spirit project is all about. Hope and Spirit eventually did lead many decades later to the freedom of Lithuania and all of Eastern European countries. It's thanks to people like Elena Juciute that we have this material on display here. I'm sure that she was at considerable risk taking these items from the Gulag, hiding them, and then eventually transporting them with herself in 1965 to the United States. She wanted her experiences not to be forgotten. She wanted actual physical material from the horrors of this lifestyle preserved, put on display, and explained to people. I'm continuing her desire. This entire program of Hope and Spirit, this entire exhibit, including Elena Juciute's material, is to remember what happened in the days of Stalin and not forget it. If we forget it, history will repeat itself. At the same time as Stalin was killing, Hitler was killing people, including very large numbers of Jews. Holocaust museums have been established across North America and the world. the issue of the Holocaust is not forgotten. And that's correct. That's the way it should be. Even with the Holocaust being known by everybody, there are countries and rulers of countries who want to repeat it. It's much worse with the issue of what Stalin did. People don't even know about it or even aware about it. There are countries that are run as Stalinist dictatorships right now. Belarus and North Korea are examples where human liberty is suppressed totally. Within the vast previous Soviet Empire, there's a very large percentage of people who still adore and revere Stalin. History can repeat itself. It's very important for us to remember it, to commemorate it, and to not forget it, just like Elena Juciute did.